So today's Tuesday, May 13th. I have hair, and yesterday in aesthetics I didn't get much recording done because I didn't have my scrub shirt on where I could take videos while it was in my pocket. And we practiced setting up tables for facials, and we learned about some of the products we'll be using and ways to do it with water when you don't have like water right next to you. So we had 2 separate bowls of water, and when you were done with the cleansing, you started on the second bowl of water so it could take off any scrub or cleaner that we had put on. And then they had this standing shaker thing. I'm not really sure what it was, but my teacher mentioned that when people go on space trips, this is something similar to what they use to get their, I don't know if it was to tone their muscle or to build back stability from not being on their feet like normal people do. So, and it also burns calories. So I think I burned at least like 60 or 70. Everyone was different with burning calories. And once we got off, some people had this feeling like their legs were itchy and really warm. Like, it was weird, but it was fun. And then we did some waxing. So I had a friend do my eyebrows for me, clean them up a little bit, and she made them look really good without any makeup, like eyebrow makeup on, because of course you have to clean so that you can actually get the adhesion with the wax without the oil barriers, the wax and your skin. You have to get rid of that. So we practiced facials, we did waxing, and we did book work. So it wasn't too much to record anyway. So today I'll be doing hair cutting, at least 2 that I know of. Take you guys along and get as much footage as I can for today. So I just got done with doing my book work. I think we did at least 3 hours of book work, and she let us go on break. But after this, we'll be going in and working on some haircuts. Tomorrow I'm off because I have to go to a family thing. Excited to have off, but I'm actually a little bit bummed at the same time because I have to make up the time.
I had you do this little kind of exercise. We need to connect the dots in here. Right. So you're going from one point to another, right? Whether it be short to long, long to short, with your guide, okay? Do you see diagonal lines, horizontal lines, vertical lines, right? Curved lines, right? See those? When you put all these lines together, what is it forming? A shape, exactly. Same kind of concept with cutting hair. Oh God.
Do we have to remember how to like connect the dots?
Well, it's kind of a way to think about cutting hair.
That's what I meant.
You have a guide, right?
Yeah, so it's just like, okay. That's what I meant. I didn't mean for
No,
if somebody comes up in here asking me for this type of haircut, they gotta go.
Well, no, it's just the point of when you take 2 horizontal lines vertically, or diagonally, what can you form? Same kind of thing when you're cutting. When you take a diagonal line being inverted, going short to long, what's that called?
Graduated.
It's an inversion. Yeah, an inversion like we did last week. Going from short to long, whether it be going forward or whether it be going backward, the direction. And you see that diagonal line, right? Did everybody see it? Horizontal line is on your blunt cutting, right? Horizontal lines, when you cut a horizontal line, you add weight to any kind of hairstyle. Just keep that in mind. And of course, on a diagonal, which could be anywhere on the head when you're cutting, layering, making your perimeter. When you're cutting horizontally, you switch to vertically, and you want to blend the 2. You blend it doing diagonal lines. Okay, that's a little bit more detail when we get into layering. So that was what the little exercise was for. Did that help a little bit as far as trying to, here's your face framing, here's your shortest piece, here's your longest piece, you're connecting the dot from here to here, you're making a diagonal line going from short to long, right? So that's basically how I kind of want your brains to think. Okay. All right?
Connecting the dots.
And each section of your head, like if you're, like your haircut, for instance. Okay, so you cut the sides different than you cut the top. You cut the back different than you cut the back. So it's a puzzle. You're putting,
and then you have to blend it all.
And then you got to connect it all. Okay, nice and relaxed. Yeah, your scissors do suck. I do have to tell you that. But
like what? How are we gonna learn to crappy scissors?
well, if you can make a good haircut with crappy scissors, you have no problem.
Well, yeah.
Just do it.
Just do it. Standing up straight. Your legs are about shoulder width apart. Your shoulders are relaxed when you're shampooing, because after a while you automatically have shoulder troubles. So your body position is nice and straight, to shoulder width apart. Shoulders are relaxed, knees are soft. You don't want to lock your knees out. And now, as for your client, you want to make sure your client is sitting up straight. They have a tendency to lean, slouch, lean to the right, lean to the left, sitting forward where you can't reach them. You have to bring them back to you, okay? Everything's about you. You have to be ergonomically correct. The client has to be in the right position, okay? Legs uncrossed. The minute they cross their legs, there's a tendency that they could be sitting crooked, even though they don't look like they're sitting crooked. Especially if they have bad hips or scoliosis of the back, especially your elderly people, they're crooked. A lot of people are crooked. I also look at their shoulders. You want to make sure their shoulders are even. So I work my clients all the time. They're leaning like this, I push them over like this. They're leaning too far like this, I bring them back towards me. Okay? So, and I tell them, I go, look in the mirror, look at your shoulders. They think I'm crazy sometimes. I had a lady tell me that I'm the only one that ever told her back was crooked. And it is. It was. She didn't look like she was crooked. But the minute she sat in that chair, I could tell her back was crooked. And sure enough, she went to the doctor. She had scoliosis, and that's why she was always crooked. I could always tell, because I could always tell.
Oh my God. Did you just adapt to it? Did you just adapt to anything like that? Or?
No, I straighten her out.
But what if they can't straighten?
I know. You have to compensate. Yes, you're absolutely right. But I do my best, and that it takes you longer to do the haircut. I can make sure your client is, straight. Use your chair. That's what it's for. Raise them up when you need to raise them up. Lower them down when you need to lower them down. Turn them, okay? You're always going to be working in front of your work, all right? Another thing they do, they don't keep their head straight, especially if they're talking to you. For some reason, they start, the head's moving the whole time, the head's moving. Sometimes you have to tell them. Don't be afraid to tell them, It's like an Italian, they talk with their hands, and sometimes when people talk with their mouth, when they're talking, their head moves. Or if they happen to be reading something, sometimes I have things posted on my station, they'll be doing this, and I went like this, and then they'll do this again, reading, and then I think their face will do like this,
I have to put my hands in between, like, underneath my knees.
To sit, yeah,
Just
like
so
this.
I stop talking, so I don't with my hands.
Well, you can ask them to do that, but, just be aware of that.
Stylist is like, oh, you really gotta stop doing that.
Just be aware of it, because sometimes they're talking and, oh my God, and blah, 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 and you're trying to cut.
So she's like, I love you, but hold your head still.
Hold your head still,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
Don't think you're gonna be rude, because you're not.
No, she was
Because these things happen. Yeah, and you don't want restraint. Yeah, you don't want that either. You don't want the parent to restrain the kid. The kid's not ready. You know what I mean? The kid is not ready. And lots of times they're afraid of being draped. I have the parent drape them, and then you keep the kid's hands, you take them right out from underneath the cape, because that also makes them feel too confined. Some kids, the hands could be loose. I don't care if they get full of hair. You can always clean them off. They're holding their toy or whatever. Okay. Let's see what else. And speaking of that, so if you're doing a little boy and the clippers or the trimmers, obviously they make noise. That'll scare them. Okay. I call them my ticklers. The little peanut things too, So I take my hand and I take the little clippers, my trimmers, and I go over the top of my hand or the bottom of my hand, and I go, here, you want to feel it? And they'll let you feel it. Most of the time they'll do it, and then or the top, and then once they feel safe and they know that you're not going to hurt them, because lots of times I will not tell the kid, I'm going to cut your hair. What do they associate cutting with?
Injury.
Getting hurt, exactly. See, blood. That's right. So I never use that word in front of them. I always say I'm going to trim it. I'm going to trim your hair. So until they get older and, kid determined. And same thing with my water bottle. You don't just automatically go and squirt the kid, Lots of times I'll say, open your mouth. And I'll squirt them in the mouth. And they think that that's hysterical and funny. I said, this is only water, look, or I'll squirt the parent. Or I'll squirt myself, So you want the kid to be comfortable in your chair and like you, because, you want the kid to come back, obviously. You want the parent to bring the kid back. So those are, I've gone as far as taking the booster seat. Now this kid was challenged. He had down cerebral palsy, so he was very wouldn't sit in the chair for no money at all. I would take the booster seat and sit it on the floor. The kid would sit on the floor. So I am sitting on the floor, cutting this little boy's hair, feeding him Smarties.
That's what you gotta do.
That's
very good. People charge a lot more.
No,
Yeah,
and I do that.
I know, but people do, and I think it's very.
Well, that's your call.
That's your call, but
But-
people charge excessive.
But don't you think that parent will appreciate the time you took to take the time to accomplish what the kid.
That's why.
And always book more time than you think you're going to need for a kid.
Yeah.
Don't think you're going to be in and out in 15, 20 minutes.
I would do them right at the beginning of the day because they're still sleepy.
Yeah, make sure they're napped or whatever, So that's
Yeah,
those are some.
I like to do those haircuts because I'm okay with people with cerebral palsy, Down syndrome, autism.
Yeah, because they're afraid.
They're afraid.
So-
They're very sensitive people.
Right. Sometimes you do that mistake once and only once. The kid told me one thing. I listened to the kid. The mother comes around the corner. I don't know where she went. She comes back and she was like, oops, listen to the kid. Well, guess what? I had to redo it and listen to the mother. And of course, who started crying? The kid. But that's not my problem. That's the problem for the ride home.
So what my son said to me when I was cutting his hair the last time, and it kind of made sense because kids don't get it when it comes to a haircut, especially if it's their first haircut.
Yeah.
Your hair is connected to your body.
That's why you don't
When
use
you
more
get
stuff.
clipped on your hand, it hurts. So when I went to cut his hair for the first time, he's never really had his hair cut. he told me it was gonna hurt because it's a part of your body. And I was like, you know
Yeah.
what? It makes so much sense. That's
That's
why
right.
kids
So
probably
that's
freak
why
out because they think it's gonna hurt, like when you get your
So you don't,
Yeah.
that's why you don't
Yeah.
use cutting,
Like your
same thing
nails.
with the nails.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm
It's-
terrified to clip my
it's
kids'
the word.
nails.
That's why you,
Do
my
it when they're
son's once.
sleeping.
All the little tricks and all the habits that you need to practice to make sure that you can get a perfect one-leg blowout. So let's get started. The first thing I want to do is I want to go through and use a little bit of cutting action just to make sure that the hair has an even wetness, that it's easy to comb and glide everything through the hair. So when I'm taking my natural center part down to the occipital bone to the mastoid. If the hair is really thick, I will separate this in half. Very rarely do I ever take this into thirds because most hair
Never
is not
clip
really
your
that
clips
thick. So
yourself.
that brings me to the first concept is you can't have a section that's too thick or too thin. If the section's too thick, then it's going to create a whole lot of scissor push, which I'll get to in a second. But if it's too thin as well, it's not going to give you a clean enough solid line that you can build off of, and it makes subsequent sections harder to match. So I want enough thickness to where I can't really see through it, but I don't want so much thickness that it makes my scissors push. The next thing we want to focus on is having a very, very sharp scissor. The sharper your scissor, the cleaner the cut that you're going to be able to make, and also the thicker the sections that you're going to be able to work with. I'm using the Kinto scissor from Jatai. It has a nice fat blade, it has enough scissor weight behind it that I can really get behind and make sure I have a clean cut. And what you're going to see a lot of times when people cut hair is it's going to look like I cut, I go in, cut, I go in. So when I do it fast, it looks like that. But in reality, what I'm doing is I put the scissor in, and as I close the blade, I cut on the backstroke. This will compensate for the amount of scissor push that I'm going to get. A sharper scissor is going to require less backstroke, which will give you a cleaner cut line. Also, the sharper the scissor is, the cleaner that it's going to cut the ends of the hair. If it cuts it kind of jagged, it's going to look kind of fuzzy. So I want a nice, sharp, clean scissor. Now from here,
Yep.
For real. I walk in like, damn, look, Corey don't like you. Oh, stop it. You do not. I walk up to your car crying. I ain't having a mental breakdown. If I didn't have kids, I'd be mental doing for real. That's why, like, if I'm being super funny, just know I'm probably in a mental mood.
No, I'm the same way.
Like, just gotta laugh about it. Everybody else laugh about it.
Yeah.
Man, I got sick for 2 weeks. I done lost my babysittership for a real while. For a while.
Okay, can I turn her forward? Yep. Yep, there you go. There. Okay, don't roll your fingers. See how you roll them?
Yeah.
Okay, try not to do that.
Just keep it straight.
Yep. Straight. And then you can run the blades of your scissors along your fingers. We'll cut them more. Rolled it. There you go. Parallel to the floor. Yep. Concentrate on that.
discard.
You are pretty much done. So my guess is, when I take this section down, there's gonna be nothing to cut, because why?
No,
That's right, it's not gonna reach.
longer.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm done.
Can I do that on the
Now you gotta go to this side, the same thing. Get your guide, that little half moon. Okay, I'm gonna drop this. Take about, maybe an inch, depending on how much hair. I'm gonna add it in. See my guide? Not much hair. Make sure the hair isn't buckled at the scalp, just like the guy said on the, I'm standing right in front of my work. Is there anything to cut? Nothing. And then of course you're gonna have a section here. Now this front is gonna be short, so you're gonna have to go with probably somewhere like right around in here for your guide. Because this front, see how short my front is? So I can't use that as a guide. Obviously I'm leaving that out.